You got it. Did you bring your gear today?
Yeah. Need an extra winger? No. He said he has 3 hat tricks in his last 5 games.
That's the report I got.
I asked. I said, "Is that for you or the competition?" Special report. Come on Sunday to the Onyx in Rochester. You get first-hand taste. You're playing one-on-one.
Smack talk going on.
I know. I get my mask.
I got something for you when we're done. Don't let me forget. Or tonight after the show or something. All right, let's get started. Let me just touch on the Ohio State series. I thought for 6 periods, it was probably 6 of the better periods we've played this season. I thought in many ways we played better, actually, in parts of our game, better Saturday than we did Friday. I thought Ohio State was much better Saturday than they were Friday. I thought positionally, structurally, I liked their effort both nights. I just didn't think we made the plays, managed the puck in certain situations as well Saturday, and as a result, we didn't get a positive result. But I thought the quality of hockey was pretty good and something to build on. Obviously, this week's an important week in many regards. Michigan's team's playing; they're kind of hitting their stride, playing with a lot of confidence, scoring a ton of goals. The one line is on fire, and I think in their last 8 games, they're averaging 6 goals a game. So, they got a lot of confidence going right now in that regard. So, our guys, work habits have been great. Attitude, approach, togetherness, all that stuff's been excellent. And this is obviously going to be a big test. We weren't happy with our performance last time we played these guys. So, and they're probably playing better than they did then. The way they've been playing, and with the level of confidence that they're playing. So it'll be a great test, and we're gonna work real hard this week to prepare for it. Got that new trophy on the line, I guess, for Friday night. Have you guys seen that yet?
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
You like it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's different. It's different. But yeah, I like it. I think it brings a little Detroit flavor and a unique flair. So I like the concept they conceived, and we're anxious to add that to the rivalry.
Tom Izzo just had his Michigan presser, and he said if he has to talk to any of his players about what Michigan means, then he's got the wrong type of players. Is it the same in hockey, or is it different because kids come from a broader range rather than just Michigan?
I think that I think it's very similar for the most part, but I do think there are some that come here who have heard of the rivalry, but after they experience it the first time, they understand it better than they did. They recognize the importance of it, they recognize the history of it, but once they play in it, they get a little better understanding than they did before. So I would say mostly similar comments to that, especially given the number of kids who grow up watching it, especially from the state. But I think even for those outside of the state, they become familiar with it. They learn about it pretty quick. But once they experience it, it's even a little more different.
Did you live that as a player, or did you know enough about it being a Michigan kid?
No, I knew enough about it. Yeah, I kind of grew into it. And I didn't know that much when I was younger, before I came to school. But by the time I got to school, I understood it a lot. Especially having been recruited by both schools, that created a part of it for me too.
You've been on both sides of where you guys are and where they are with the records and stuff like that. But is the classic throw away the record book, the rivalry kind of takes precedence?
Well, given where our record is, you'd like to think so, yeah. But I have been on both sides of it, and the answer is yes. I know that as a player here, I played, on the opposite side of that. And I remember, I think it was here we lost a game that, record-wise, we were far the superior team. So it doesn't matter what your record is when you play in the game. It does before the game and after the game, but in the game, that's not what you're thinking about. You're thinking about winning that game and competing against the people in front of you. So I think history would show that, and certainly for us, that's our approach to the game, our games.
In your 5 years here, have you seen
an offense like Michigan's? Is it the best offense you've seen since taking this job?
Most electric, at least.
So far this season, I'm trying to think back. It's probably been as dynamic, or when I say dynamic, deep as I've seen. Yeah, because last year I thought, Hyman and Larkin in particular were having real good years, and against us I thought we did a pretty good job shutting them down in the number of games that we played them. These guys, that one line right now, just kind of follow them. They're as hot as any three players I've seen. Now maybe Goudreau, in his last year at BC, that line was an awfully difficult line to stop. But this line right now is playing as well as any line in the country.
When I look down and I see that 9-2, it always jumps off the page when you met a couple weeks ago. What was the feeling from this team after seeing 9-2? Do you take that even more personally because it is against Michigan and it is such a disappointing result?
Sure, absolutely. Those aren't the kind of results you want against anybody, especially against a rival opponent. So that was a difficult night.
Coach, it seems like every team in the Big Ten has experienced firsthand how potent Michigan's offense is. What's going to be your game plan to shut down that offense?
Well, I'm not going to tell you that. But, no one has figured that out yet. On average, they're scoring 5 goals a night. And like I said, in the last 8 games, they're scoring 6 goals a night. So no one has figured out how to shut down that offense. So we're obviously going to have to take a certain approach. It's going to require a great defensive effort on part of our entire team, including our goaltender. And we'll see if we can put together an effort and a scheme that can slow it down. I don't think you're going to stop it. I don't think you stop. There's too much depth on their team offensively, but hopefully you can slow it down a little bit.
Outside of the obvious in the win column, what did Friday night's win do for the locker room and the guys to get out of that, slump a little bit?
Well, we've been approaching it where we haven't been happy enough with our game as a whole. Wins and losses aside, we haven't been happy enough with the consistency of our play. And I thought after Friday night's game, there was a good, solid effort across the board. Now, our power play didn't score. We moved the puck around. We had some really good looks. So we haven't gotten over the hump there. Our penalty kill was real good. Our 5-on-5 play was good. And I thought across our lineup we contributed. So we did the things that we wanted to do. So I think from a team perspective, coming out of that game, guys felt good about not just the result, but the game. And I thought we took that into the next night and I thought we played real well. The game didn't like us enough to win, but I liked the game. And so I thought that was a confidence boost that maybe our game is coming together and, it's something to grow on.
Had that slump been wearing on guys mentally, do you think?
Sure, absolutely. Very, very difficult. Not just the losing, but how we lost some games, losing late games after not being behind. In the GLI, you're not behind all weekend until the end of the game. That's not a good way to lose. So you lose the game, and then the way you lose it adds a little more push to it. So yeah, there's frustration. It's a competitive locker room. We have high expectations for ourselves. Disappointed with where we're at. But the good news is it's a real resilient group of guys who are staying together, who are working through it, and keep on pushing. Because in the college hockey season, there's always hope until the season's over. And so what's most important is that we keep getting better towards this final stretch run to be playing our best hockey during the end of the season. And those guys believe in that. I believe in that, and that's what we're continuing to work towards.
Coach, you're going to be playing in a big arena, definitely going to be a high-intense game. How do you kind of manage the guys, their energy level, making sure they're all business being there? How do you kind of manage this whole situation?
This particular group, we've played there, so it's not like it's new. Every guy here has played there. Not everybody has played in the rivalry game there, but a good share of guys have, so they have experience. We won there last year, so I don't think that will be as big of a factor as we know we're playing a good team. We know we're playing a good team who's playing with a lot of confidence right now, and we're coming off a couple games that we thought our game has taken positive steps, and it's not obviously good enough to where we want to be, but it's taken positive steps, and so I'm sure we'll go in with a very business-like attitude and ready to play.
So it does sound like you think you guys have taken some steps since the last time you played Michigan. Where do you think those steps have made the biggest strides?
I thought on an individual basis, some of our personnel has upped their game, and I think that's real positive because it creates some different dynamics than maybe we've had to this point in the season. I think that structurally we're doing some things in a different way than we were doing before, and I think we're doing them a little bit better. I told you guys a couple weeks ago we were experimenting with some things, and we liked what we saw early, and we're trying to build off of that a little bit. So that's positive. We can still get better, and yet I think we're making positive strides in the things that we've been looking at. And I do think our team's growing in a little bit of confidence, and not where we want to be, but it's going in the right direction, which is a positive. So obviously we did not like how we played or the results that we had last time we played these guys, so we've got to be better. And every guy in our locker room knows that, and that's what we'll work towards all week.
Tom, back when you played, playing at the Joe was a big deal, especially when you played in Michigan. Is that still there? Is that novelty worn off a little bit? Or your players, do they still like playing in that environment?
Yeah, I'd say it's still there, very, very much so. And I was wondering that too, actually, a while ago, a couple years ago. Wondering if maybe it was a little bit of an overexposure. But, now the CCHA tournament's not there every year, so there's one less opportunity normally to go down there except for the Big Ten tournaments rotation. I think guys really enjoy playing in that atmosphere where the Red Wings play. It's an older building. Many of them who played in the state of Michigan, maybe even some who played outside the state, played as a youth there, because it's more available. A lot of the Little Caesars teams play there, so if you play against them, you play there. But I see the guys when they go down there, they're as eager as ever. And so back when I played, it was kind of a new thing, and that was a big deal. But yet I see these guys, and they look forward to it.
Those opportunities are running thin now. Plus, to play down. It's the last game for the seniors.
Yeah, that'll be the last game for the seniors for sure. And I don't know where they got one more year of the building. Is it next year and then the new building opens? So I think it's a cool environment, and I think the players, that's your question, Fred, do the players still think it's a cool? I think they do. To go down there and play where some of the Red Wing greats played that they got a chance to watch. I played there, and you see Ted Lindsay's number hanging up there, but I don't really remember watching Ted Lindsay. But these guys have grown up watching Yzerman and Lidstrom and the other guys, the other guys who have played there, and they've had so many Hall of Fame level players, Chelios, and you can go on and on, Hall, over the years. It's pretty cool.
I thought you played against Ted Lindsay, no?
I did in an alumni game one time.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Hey,
him, Del Vecchio. I can tell people I played against Del Vecchio and Lindsay.
Did you really?
Yeah.
It would be easier to say with more conviction if you swept, but can't you say that you feel as good about your team off of last weekend than you have in a while? Just the way they played.
The way we played, yeah, I was disappointed that we didn't get a better result because in many ways I thought we deserved a little bit better result than we got in that Saturday game. But coming out of there, I liked the 6 periods of hockey we played. That's positive, and that's the most important thing. I mean, you want to get results without a doubt. I'd take a win playing poorly over a loss playing great, but where we're at, we got to build game. We keep focused on building game because you need to be playing your best hockey at the end of the season. So I did walk out of there not feeling great, but feeling better about where our game was at coming out of that weekend.
To get a result at home would be key on Saturday too, right? Because, I mean, there haven't been a lot of games in the last couple of months as you guys have struggled. So a good effort against Michigan could really fill the
Look at you
groundswell.
jumping to Saturday. Let's look at Friday first. Yeah, it'd be great playing great on Saturday and getting a great result. But I think we'll focus on Friday first.
Spoken like a coach. Tom, what about Hildebrand? How has his game been in practice, and how would you assess his play over the weekend against Ohio State?
Practice has been really good, and I thought at Ohio State he was excellent. I haven't been able to see an angle on their second goal on Saturday night. But obviously the referees felt it was a clean goal, and
he claims it was a high stick, of course.
Yeah, he felt it was a high stick. That the puck was tapped in above his head, actually. Is how he saw it. So, nevertheless, they had to really earn their goals, and that wasn't the difference in the game. The difference is the game. We didn't take advantage of the scoring opportunities that we had, and had we done so, I think we'd have won that game and swept the series. So, I thought he played real well.
And your defense must have played pretty good. And Ohio State was a pretty high-scoring team going into that game.
Very high-scoring, and they play. Like we worked pretty hard at trying to prepare for how they play, and I thought we did a real good job adapting to that because we made them earn their goals too. And so I thought our defense played well, but I thought our team defense across the board, especially against a team like them, and that's the kind of effort it'll take against these guys. So in many ways, it was good preparation. Although these guys take it a whole nother notch, but it's good preparation because Ohio State. The way they like to play is that they like to try to create some transition. They like to create odd man rushes. And against their team, if you looked at the games leading up to us, they had a lot of them. I mean, they had a ton of them, and they were scoring a lot off of those. We really limited those against them, and we were fortunate to do that. And Michigan takes advantage of that, too, as well as, a power play that's clipping at almost 30%.
Now, from what you've seen on video and in person, do you think Kyle Connor is having even a better year than Larkin had even last year?
We haven't seen them as much as we saw them at this point last year because we played them in the GLI too, but it sure would seem to be, it sure would seem to be. He's been very impactful in all situations. So it's hard to think that that's the case, because Larkin had such a good season, but certainly it's comparable, if not better.
How much did McEachern need last weekend getting a couple goals, and how much did you guys need him to get those goals?
Well, he's a catalyst to our team. I think that's certainly rewarding for him, and when he's going, that makes a big impact on our team. He's one of our best players, and so I think anytime you get rewarded. Because he plays hard, he's doing the right things, and then when the puck goes in the net, it adds that little extra jump, and so the nice part about Mac is while I'm sure that helped make him feel good and help him get rewarded, he's such a team first guy, and so him scoring, he wants to score to help contribute to the success of the team, but. I'm sure. I thought he played. I thought he had a really good weekend last weekend, and that adds to it. So, helps his confidence.
Coach, your penalty kill has now killed off 12 consecutive penalties. I guess my question is a two-part question. What has contributed to that success of your penalty kill, and how important is your penalty kill going to be to your team's success this weekend?
Well, it's going to be real important. Hopefully, we can limit the number of times that we have to go to it. But because I think last time we played these guys, we struggled on the penalty kill, and since that time we've been pretty good, and before that time we were pretty good too. So they have a pretty dynamic power play, and we don't want to give them too many opportunities, but we like our penalty kill. We think the guys do a good job. What makes it successful starts in goal. Your goalie needs to be your best penalty killer. He needs to be able to make big stops when there is a breakdown. Number two, guys taking pride in the assignment. Oftentimes players take great pride when they get called out in the beginning of the season and they get assigned to the power play. Guys take pride in that, and obviously when you're on a power play, it gives you a chance to get points, so it shows up in your statistics. we try to get everybody to understand. And I remember I played on both the power play and penalty kill. I took as much pride in the penalty kill as the power play. And we try to emphasize to our guys that that's something to take a lot of pride in. We want to be one of the best in the country. We aim to be a top 10 team in penalty kill in the country. And so we have guys who seem to embrace that role. Sometimes it's not the most glamorous, blocking shots and doing those little things. But the group that we have seems to really embrace that and take great pride in it. And I think that lends to having good performance in it. Understanding the schemes, too, having good sticks, being able to stop and start, understanding, maybe having good anticipation. All of those things go into being a good penalty killer.
Who are the units so far?
Pardon me?
Who are the units that you're using?
Well, Cox and Ebbing, they play off each other really well. Of late, we've used McKenzie and DeBlau as a pair. They've been pretty good. Ryan Keller can do a good job. Penalty kill, he's been in and out of the lineup a little bit. Mason Appleton's, as a freshman, has done a pretty good job. He's got good hands, has good reach, has good anticipation, has a good skill set. Mike Ferrantino sometimes, he doesn't have the reach, but he's got that tenacity. He's got a good understanding, and he's a good face-off guy. So those are the principal guys. And so outside of the first two I mentioned, and probably Mack and DeBlau, the other guys have kind of, moved in depending upon the circumstances. So love to have 6 guys, ideally, and we're trying to introduce a couple of the younger guys, practice a little bit, because we think that they show a good skill set as well. I'd like to have 6 guys.
Tim, last time you played Michigan, at the end of your press conference, you alluded to a big brawl that you were in. I'm still looking for the video in case I find it, or even if I don't. Tell me about that.
I was a coach at the time.
Oh, I thought you were a player.
Yeah, no,
you were assistant for Mason at the time? What year?
Oh, God, 92, 91. It was in the early 90s. Jason Muzzatti was on the team. The irony is Jason Muzzatti and Steve Shields fought, and now they're both volunteer coaches on the two teams. Yeah. So I was a coach.
What do you remember about it?
Well, I remember it was an emotional moment that you had. It was an emotional game. It was down at Joe Louis, so it was on a pretty big stage. You don't oftentimes see those types of things in college hockey.
So it was the second night of 2 in a row with the Joe.
Was it? Yeah. I can't remember that. You don't oftentimes see 2 goalies swinging at each other. And then 2 guys who I knew really well and I know to this day very well, who were friends. They used to work for me in the summertime in hockey school. Michigan had Chris Tamer. He was a defenseman, and he could really fight. And we had Jim Cummings, who could really fight. And those guys fought, and they're like best of friends. I mean, they worked together every day with me in the summertime in the hockey school, and they went out and represented their teams. And so I think a lot of people were at the game. That was maybe the main event, even though Muzz might tell you, the 2 goalies. So that's what made it memorable. It was emotional. It was I don't remember the score of the game. I couldn't tell you if we won or lost the game, but we won the game. So that's what I remember about it. I remember the coaches ended up getting suspended after it too. And that was kind of a controversial thing, because I believe it happened at the end of a period. So teams were going on the ice. The coaches. It happened beyond their control. And anyway.
Buzz was even starting. He was on the bench. Right? He came off the bench.
Was he on the bench?
So were you.
I can't say that's surprising.
I guess you didn't hold him back.
Well, no, actually, the period ended. That's what I remember, and players naturally would go on the ice. Now there's protocols to prevent that. They stay at your bench. You don't cross. You go into your end. Yeah. And it's like breaking laws, right? When somebody does something they don't have a law for it, that triggers creating the law. Well, maybe that created the protocol.
So
I don't know.
Do you remember turning on the bench and going into the locker room, sort of heading that way as it broke out?
I just remember the buzzer went off. Immediately, players are going on the ice. So, you're jumping out. You're going to go give a tap to your goalie. There was no intent there at all. And I remember at the far end, something happened. And the way I recall it, and I may not be right, but the way I recall it is their goalie two-handed one of our players, Dwayne Norris. And Muzz took exception to that.
Shields did that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I remember it. And that kind of perpetuated, and now you've got this situation where you got 40 players on the ice, you know.
Fights broke out all over.
Yeah.
Well, those days are over. We won't see that again, will we?
You never say never, but I don't think that's very likely. And I think, the protocols are now we're not supposed to go on the ice. You're supposed to hold at the bench. You're supposed to go off. And the officials really try to. There's one more official on the ice now. Couldn't handle 40 guys with 3, so we got 40 guys with 4. I don't, that's not a big part of the game anymore. And not that it was a big part of the college game at the time. I just think it kind of bubbled over in the emotion of the rivalry. And so I think there was a few of those over the years. I remember when I was commissioner, I had to deal with a couple of them.
Make good primetime television.
Yeah.
But I think that thing's on YouTube, though.
It is actually. Coach, you've had some time to evaluate Justin Humayan
We spent all that time talking about that, huh?
Justin Humayan moving back to the blue line. How would you grade his performance now as defenseman?
I think he's making progress. That is a very difficult transition. He's given us some minutes. He works hard at it every day. I guess I appreciate his willingness to take on that challenge, and he's the kind of guy that's willing to do whatever it takes, both to play and to help the team, and that's a need for us. So I don't think he's ready for 15 or 16 minutes a night. And quite frankly, the transition has taken place in a pretty challenging environment. You start by going to Minnesota. I think I made the comment last week. It was like you feel like you're out on Lake Michigan. The rink's so big, so that's a challenge. And I thought he took it on and did a decent job. And actually, for the limited amount of experience, he did a very good job. And then going against Ohio State with the way they played and the way they would stretch the defense, that's a whole new dynamic that he had to deal with. And so I thought he handled that pretty well for the amount of minutes he played. So I think he's inching, making gradual progress, and I think that's very positive. When he gets into battle situations like in the end zones and stuff, he's a big, strong kid. And so he can add some physicality back there, and that's positive. Okay. You guys have a great day.
What did you think of the